It's Paris in 1961. There's a fast car coming over the bridge, very fast. Inside that car are two 15-year-old kids. They shouldn't be drawing attention to themselves, but driving along in this very expensive and powerful car, they're not going to go unnoticed. Remarkably, they decide to abandon the car on the bridge itself. They open up the doors and scarper, and are heading to seek refuge in the girl's bedsit above the shop where she works during the day. Overnight, they have been very wild and adventurous. It started on the previous afternoon. The young man, was showing off, and he was trying to impress the young lady. He didn't have a job, he'd left school, and he's got no social position or status. He sees a guy across the road entering a building, and he watches this man, a grown-up man, regularly. And this grown-up man actually works for an arms dealer, but the business, the tall building, looks legitimate, and the staff are not aware that their boss at the top level is trading in arms in Algeria and places like this. And one of the guys who's a member of his staff, a chief member, is a sophisticated man of about 35 or 40 who's always well dressed and handles himself with flair and aplomb. And this boy thinks he'd like to be this type of man. And he says to the girl, who's pretty naive, who works in the flower shop, that he has a car. And she says, "Don't be so silly. You can't afford a car." He says, "Well, I'll show you." And as she's leaving the shop after 4 that afternoon, he drives up in a car, which he's stolen in broad daylight. And the car he's stolen is this tough guy who works for the arms dealer. And she thinks, this is pretty crazy. Are you crazy? He says, "Well, jump in." And she's tempted to jump in, but also she thinks that the boy's gone mad. So he drives off in a bit of a huff, makes a show of it, and she jumps into the car, and off they go on a spree. And that's when things get exciting, and they turn ugly as well. And they drive down the freeways and motorways in the middle of the night, and they end up checking into a motel and taking on a different identity. And during the time that they're flying around through the night, they get into all sorts of skirmishes. And they run out of the motel in the very early morning without paying anything, because they don't have a proper identity anyway. They've stolen the car and an identity. And then they're heading over this bridge in Paris very early in the morning. And they abandon the car here right on the bridge. And now they're heading for her bedsit, running into the gate, through the doors before anyone spots them, as if they're going to be inconspicuous driving a car like that. They run up the stone steps and wrought iron banisters, heading for her room. And in they go. Enter, holding hands as they enter her room. He sits down in the bed, takes his jacket off, and says to her, I'm done for. I'm done for. They're very melodramatic, being French. And, you can't say that. He says, my head's going to roll. Stop saying that, she's saying. What's happened? At one point, he was racing. Another car drove off the road and exploded. And there was 2 people in it. So they think they might even be responsible for the death of 2 other adults who were larking about in another car. So he's resigned himself for the block. She's acting in a very melodramatic way. Stop saying that to me. And then they concoct a plan, being melodramatic young Parisians. They're going to take part in a suicide pact. And she's been saving up some pills, which she says will take them both out. So the next thing they do is open up a special bottle of champagne which she has, and they put on some beautiful classical music, take the pills, and decide just to head for the exit door in life with dignity. At least they're doing this with a bit of class. So it's been a hectic 24 hours for them. And it's not even 24 hours, maybe even just 12 hours.